of the day, but we got some more stuff to talk about, so let's do it. And before we get into any of this, before we get into the show, I just want to say there are times that it is perfectly okay and respectable and something you need to do in running a contentious primary. Like, this is going to happen. And the criticism that was offered of Warren compared to the criticism offered of Biden, it's just it's like unbelievably pale and mild comparatively. But the thing is, it's like, we got to do this honestly. We got to do this without smears, without handing Warren opportunities to paint herself exactly the way she wants in the media. And we got to actually push the media to be slightly better and less completely dishonest with what they're really doing. Like, this is just very, very sketchy all around. So, all right, now we can start the show. All right, so on today's episode of Newsflash, we're going to be talking about Mark Esper. The defense secretary is now sparking doubts about this whole Iran thing, and the alleged threats to embassies as polls show Americans' overwhelming disapproval of Iran. So that's could be a problem from him. We'll take a look at Nina Turner's op-ed about Joe Biden. We'll also take a look about Texas trying to try and do the best they could to get rid of the scourge of refugees. We'll talk about getting a little bit of Guantanamo, and we will talk about some more 2020 news. With the possibility of Sanders getting more focus from the president as things get up. So as things get up, the tensions keep. We have literally today no choice but to start the show talking about this situation with Mark Esper. So he's the defense secretary. Obviously, you probably didn't know he was the defense secretary until at least this past Thursday or 2 Thursdays ago, when the whole thing about Iran came into the news. But as a televised interview with Defense Secretary Mark Esper raised fresh doubts about President Trump's claim that Iran was planning to attack 4 U.S. embassies. Polling released Sunday showed the majority of American adults don't approve of Trump's handling of the crisis of Iran and feel less safe because of it. Just look at the memes on Twitter. That could tell you that much. The ABC News Ipsos poll found that 73% of Americans are somewhat or very concerned about the possibility of getting into a full-scale war with Iran. Additionally, 56% of Americans disapprove of how President Trump is handling the situation with Iran, and 52% believe the U.S. airstrike that killed General Qasem Soleimani made the U.S. less safe. So it's a pretty substantial margin. Definitely some of his supporters there, too, and a lot of the country, which is very, very anti-war. And this is definitely a very, very concerning situation. Like, people are very, 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 very perturbed by this, is how I'd really say it. And this is a largely anti-war country, especially after what we saw with Iraq, and the long history of Americans being abroad in the Middle East especially, and absolutely falling flat on their ass. So, anyway, these results really, they align with a Reuters Ipsos USA Today poll, both of which were conducted on Monday and Tuesday. Those surveys found that 53% of Americans disapprove of Trump's handling of Iran, and 55% say that assassinating Soleimani made the U.S. less safe. So, since taking credit for the airstrike that killed the Iranian commander in Baghdad earlier this past month, Trump and members of his administration have stuck to the script that the assassination came, again, in response to an imminent threat faced by Americans. So as Common Dreams reported, Trump claimed during a televised press conference on Thursday, without providing any evidence, that he ordered the strike because Soleimani was plotting to, quote, blow up the U.S. Embassy in Iraq. The president expanded on that claim in an interview with Fox News host Laura Ingraham on Friday, alleging that Iran was planning multiple attacks. As Trump put it, I can reveal that I believe it would have been 4 embassies. He revealed that he believes it would have been 4 embassies. Wow, that's really interesting. So here's Mark Esper trying to, here's his take on the situation. This is this morning on Face the Nation. So it's definitely not going to look good for him here in the future, and it's not looking good for us that we cannot get this audio right now. But we will have that for you. This is what he had to say. Mark Esper, 27th Secretary of Defense.
Believed that it probably and could have been attacks against additional embassies. I shared that view. I know other members of the national security team shared.
We already have to rewind this here. What the president said was...
he believed that it probably and could have been attacks against additional embassies.
Probably and could have been additional attacks against embassies in what was a very, very, very imminent situation, apparently. This thing that we had to do. It was an imminent situation. And now we're using words like probably or could have. What, a week and a half tops after this whole thing happened? Like, what a mess. What an absolute mess. All right, let's hear more.
I shared that view. I know other members of the national security team shared that view. That's why I deployed thousands of American paratroopers to the Middle East to reinforce our embassy in Baghdad and other sites throughout the region.
Probably and could have been. Yeah. That sounds more like an assessment than a specific, tangible threat with a decisive piece of intelligence.
Well, the president didn't say there was a tangible. He didn't cite a specific piece of evidence. What he said is he believed.
Are you saying there wasn't one?
I didn't see one with regard to 4 embassies. What I'm saying is I share the president's view that probably my expectation was they were going to go after our embassies.
All right, yeah, I think we can very finally put to rest this just complete and total BS idea that there was an imminent threat. There was that's the new weapons of mass destruction. It is an absolute lie. It's just not true. There is no evidence of that whatsoever. Like, we're at a point now. This is just not true. So the president, he says, didn't cite a specific evidence. And Bernie Sanders reacts, just as we were led into Vietnam and Iraq by lies, Donald Trump is misleading us on Iran. I'll do everything I can as United States Senator to prevent such a war, Bernie Sanders tweeted. So this pretty much puts it out right there. Referencing previous remarks from Esper and National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien, who both said the administration had exquisite intelligence about the supposed imminent threat, Adam Schiff, chairman of the House Intelligence Community, said there was no discussion in the Gang of 8 briefings that these are the 4 embassies that are being targeted, and we have exquisite intelligence that shows that these are specific targets. So on CNN State of the Union Sunday, Mike Lee, a Republican of Utah, said that the Trump administration did not share the president's claim about 4 embassies being under threat from Soleimani's forces during a classified briefing he attended. Lee revealed on Saturday, that he was signing on to as a co-sponsor of Bernie Sanders' bill that would freeze funding for any U.S. military action against Iran without the approval of Congress. The announcement came in again in a joint statement from Lee and Sanders. They've also worked together on stopping the war in Yemen, which is really what they did, I think, pretty effectively. These are both very anti-war guys, but happen to be, again, the political opposite ends of the spectrum. Again, so this as United States senators, we have to go and get, we have to put our foot down here at some point, is really what it seems to be at this point. So it looks like that's what they're doing, and this is, hopefully it seems like we're out of the woods. You never know what could happen. Like, does this flare up quickly? Could flare up quickly, very fast again. So we don't know at this point. It could be very interesting. But the fact that this action is being taken here and with bipartisan support is a very good sign. All right, let's get into this now. Turn back to 2020. As the race is heating up ahead of the primaries and caucuses, Bernie Sanders surrogate Nina Turner argues that Joe Biden has repeatedly betrayed black voters. Among the signals, the Democratic presidential primary race is heating up in the final few weeks before the first round of caucuses and primaries. A leader in Senator Bernie Sanders' campaign on Sunday published an op-ed detailing former VP Joe Biden's record on racial issues and encouraging black voters to support Bernie Sanders. In an op-ed for The State, a newspaper based in South Carolina, which will hold the nation's fourth nominating contest on February 29th, Sanders' 2020 co-chair, Nina Turner, an African-American woman, wrote, quote, "Will our community side with the former Vice President Joe Biden, who has repeatedly betrayed black voters, to side with Republican lawmakers and undermine our progress, or will we side with Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders in a movement that has been fighting for racial and economic justice since the civil rights era?" This critical choice is illustrated by the key differences between Biden and Sanders, which begin at the beginning of their respective careers. Hello somebody, as Nina Turner likes to say. So it is a big contrast between these two guys. One of them giving the eulogy for the unrepentant racist and segregationist Strom Thurmond. One of them battling and belittling Anita Hill during the 1991 hearings as she was bold enough to come out and accuse Clarence Thomas of sexual assault, sexual harassment. Turner said that Biden facilitated the public degradation of Hill, an esteemed professor already victimized by a powerful man. The op-ed also noted Bernie Sanders and Biden and Sanders' positions on so-called welfare reform in the 1990s and the tough-on-crime legislation that Biden backed, as well as the bankruptcy legislation that Biden backed as well. Bernie voted for that bill. He said he comes out and regrets it at this time. Biden really has made he sort of said it a long time ago that he regretted that support, but Biden wrote it, backed it, proud of it, supported it all throughout the long time that he has been in public life. So as he has with most of his decisions. As Turner's explained, Biden opposes Democratic efforts to legalize marijuana, while Sanders supports not only legislation but also criminal justice reform to address institutional racism. Biden opposes transitioning to a Medicare for all healthcare system, for which Sanders has advocated for years, and Biden has refused to support Sanders' bill to make public colleges and universities tuition-free and cancel all student debt. So by supporting a racial justice champion like Sanders and his popular progressive agenda, black Americans will forge a multiracial, multi-generational working-class alliance that will generate the high turnout necessary to beat Donald Trump, she concluded. In standing with Sanders over Biden, we will declare that we are not going backward. We're going to the future, forward into a future of empowerment and equality for all. So, yeah, Nina Turner, apparently she's going to be on All Things Considered. Hopefully we haven't missed that yet. Like to listen to that. But according to, she's going to be on The Burn Notice. Turner scheduled multiple televised interviews. She's going to be on NBC's she's going to be on Crystal Ball and Sagar and Jetty's show. So that's very fun. It's going to be in this state. This state is where she wrote that, if you want to go check that out. Ryan Liz is Politico's chief Washington correspondent, tweeted the response to Turner's op-ed is the whole kitchen sink against Biden. He added that it'll be interesting to see if Sanders is willing to make these same attacks on Tuesday night's debate. And I think he will be, because it's distinction time, folks, especially with Biden, and proving the idea that this guy is not only not as electable as black voters think he is, but he also has a very, very bad history of doing these things that explicitly go against the interests of black voters. Alex Thompson, also Politico, agreed that, we remember him from earlier in the show, also Politico agreed that Liz's characterization of the op-ed, writing a series of tweets that it has, quote, kitchen sink vibes. Responding to one of Thompson's tweets, Sanders' 2020 National Press Secretary Brianna Joy Gray wrote, "I wish the media political figures were as concerned about Joe Biden's bad judgment as they are about the horse race. Quote, if they cover the substance of the article, they'd have to admit that the critique is true. Trump won't hesitate to talk about it." Now that is absolute facts. Trump, he is shameless. He's going to go to the left of Joe Biden on this issue and say, hey, you locked up black voters. I'm going to give them a better deal. And it's going to be complete and total BS, but he's going to be able to steamroll Joe Biden on it. He did with Hillary Clinton, and there's no reason why he will not be able to do that with Joe Biden. I'm struggling for the name of Joe Biden there for a second. I'm feeling like I am turning slowly into Joe Biden at this point. So, yeah, that is really